Way up north. No to Alaska. Way up north. No to Alaska. North to Alaska. Go north for Russia's home. North to Alaska. Go north to Russia's home. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92.
Alright, let's get at this thing. I haven't streamed for a while and I'm still dog shit at it, but I'm going to keep doing it just so I can eventually try to get better. So if anyone watches this, which of course no one's going to watch this, but should anyone do, just bear with me, it's probably going to be garbage. Alright, anyway, I guess to get started, I was watching Anthony Brian Logan's channel, and he had a video of this illegal immigrant that killed 2 cops in 2014, and while at his trial in California now, he was laughing and taunting the judge, taunting the cops, saying that he wished he could kill more cops, etc. and so forth. I'm going to play the video, and of course I've linked Anthony Brian Logan's channel in the description because he's a boss. But I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to make some comments on it. Here we go.
Be silent.
Often smiling, Luis Bracamontes interrupted the prosecutor several times as the DA described in detail the events of October 24th, 2014.
Be silent. You don't want to allow me to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, please step out of the hallway. They're dead.
Judge Steve White eventually had to dismiss the jury for a short time as Bracamontes showed little remorse, being accused of killing Sacramento County Deputy Danny Oliver and Placer County Detective Mike Davis. Prosecutors told how Bracamontes stole a Placer County squad car, and how responding deputies, Davis included, originally thought he was also a deputy. In the confusion, a witness was also almost accidentally shot by one of those deputies, but a last-minute decision saved his life.
I regret that. The only thing that I regret is the skill too. I wish I killed more of them.
Luis Bracamontes' attorneys have said he's not always cooperated with them. During their opening statements, they said they're not trying to prove his innocence.
We are not contesting many of these charges. Mr. Bracamontes is responsible for the deaths of Deputy Danny Oliver and the death of Detective Michael Davis. He shot them both.
His attorneys added he had smoked large amounts of methamphetamine in the days leading up to the shooting. During his outburst, Bracamontes has said if given the opportunity, he would kill again.
I will break up soon and I will kill more.
Alright, I think that's enough. That you kind of get the idea what the hell that jackass is all about. So this stupid, useless, illegal immigrant comes into our country, commits a whole bunch of crimes by coming into the country to begin with, but then a whole bunch of other crimes on top of that, because of course, ancillary criminality is just a huge part of illegal immigration. Then the cocksucker is caught a bunch of times in Arizona and deported, comes back, does a bunch of drugs, and decides to go on a crime spree, which ends up with him killing 2 cops in Sacramento. Then at his trial, he laughs about it, thinks it's funny, and it's hilarious, and I guess he's trying to prove how big of a tough badass he is and how much he doesn't give a rat's ass about anything to make him look like a big man in prison or something. But I don't particularly give a rat's ass. All I know is that this cocksucker willfully killed 2 people. He totally admits it, and they were 2, peace officers specifically. And it's California, so what's probably going to happen is they'll probably plea him down to something, and he'll serve like 20 years or something. I guess if they get the right kind of jury, and it is Sacramento, you never know. They might actually come up with a first-degree murder charge and give him death, but it doesn't matter. They won't fucking execute him for 30 years, if ever, anyway. I think that what this guy actually needs is for California to, I guess, be pushed aside, for the feds to come in and say, alright, you're a goddamn stupid, useless, illegal immigrant that we've deported multiple times. Being that you've come broken in again and killed a bunch of our citizens, and, there's no question about your guilt. I mean, they said that his defense attorney was not contesting that he was the killer at all. Fuck this prick. The Fed should take him, cut his goddamn head off, throw his rotting carcass over the fence back into Mexico so it can rot on that side and make that fucking side fester, and then put his goddamn head in a pike as a warning to the rest of the criminals that you can't fuck around in this country anymore. But of course none of those things will happen because we're just a bunch of useless, weak pussies. What are you gonna do? Alright, I guess that's out of the way. It was a very, very good vid, and you should just definitely go watch Anthony Brian Logan's, because he talks he just was much more sensible than I am. I guess next we shall move on to Jeff Flake. So Jeff Flake gave a speech on the Senate floor it was today, where he denounced Trump and said Trump and talking shit about the media is hurting the entirety of the U.S. because Trump is obfuscating the truth. Whereas, I don't know, perhaps if Jeff Flake wasn't a stupid, useless, progressive piece of fucking dog shit, he would realize that there's nothing having to do with the truth. The media has absolutely nothing to do with the truth at all. Especially and particularly the dominant leftist establishment mass media, which, you know, there's the usual suspects: CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, etc., and so forth. And, you know, they're all dog shit. They're all fucking all pretty much all those pricks do is either make up stories or they get anonymous sources, quote unquote, to make them up for them. Such as Christopher Steele, or the Russians that Christopher Steele gave money to make up that nonsensical Steele dossier, which, again, Hillary Clinton paid for, and probably you, if you're a taxpayer in the United States, because the FBI appears to have paid for it as well. And it's getting worse than it used to be. I mean, there's always been some kind of media spin going back to, since printing and press has been around. There's been some spin for this or that political cause, blah, blah, blah. In the United States, in the past 50 years, it's been definitely a hard bent on a leftist spin. I mean, there was a bunch of New York Times reporters that toured the Soviet Union and came back saying that it was great and it all worked well. Of course, willfully ignoring all the fucking starvation and oppression they saw there. But, you know, I guess that's the media. They're going to be leftist. But this is different now. It's not just leftist spin anymore. It's gone all the way into lies and social engineering. It's worse than it ever has been under Trump. The media is just super triggered. They're never going to not be triggered. They're all a bunch of stupid, useless jackasses that probably decided to go into journalism school because they wanted to change the world and afflict the comforted and comfort the afflicted. You know, stupid nonsense. No, your job is to report the truth. But I think that's the whole problem here, isn't it, Flake? There isn't any truth in media anymore. The media doesn't give one fuck about truth. They've embraced an ideology that completely abandons the whole notion, that throws it out, that says, no, there's no such thing as truth. There's only your truth and my truth, etc. and so forth. So, Mr. Goddamn Progressive Flake, friend and benefactor of John fucking McCain, who decided he was going to fly to the Ukraine at the benefit of George Soros, in order to talk to a bunch of basically Ukrainian Nazis in order to ferment the revolution that Soros and the CIA decided to sponsor there. And I'm not even saying I give a rat's ass about the Ukraine thing. Fuck that. I don't care about the stupid country. I don't really give a rat's ass about any of that. But I know that McCain is bad news. I know that he's a fucking stupid piece of shit, and he seems to give more of a rat's ass about keeping in line with what the Democrats say and what Deep State says, rather than what the American people say. And likewise to the junior senator, Mr. Flake. Stupid, useless cocksucker. Flake is a progressive. He seeks exactly what the media, the Dems, the establishment, and the establishment Republican filth want. Big government control, an absolute erosion of all liberty, an erosion of individuality, and throwing away anything having to do with truth or verisimilitude. Flake is dog shit and needs to be bitch slapped. So, you know what? Fuck you, Flake. You gotta have the goddamn audacity to compare Trump with Stalin. Like that, see a little bit easier to see. To conflate Trump with Stalin, whereas you have the specific ideology where truth, my truth, your truth, his truth, her truth, is basically what Marx created in order to fucking ferment that. And likewise, what Stalin exploited to, I don't know, kill something like 30 million motherfucking people. But no, Trump is the problem, even though there is lots of constitutional limitations on any power that he can have. And you, Mr. fucking Flake, are one of the ones, by the way, who were instrumental in throwing away those constitutional protections for previous presidents. But suddenly this is the one you have to worry about, even though he's not oppressing anybody, he's not arresting you. He's just throwing away he's throwing away all of the general tendency towards corruption that the big media seem to have. He's trying to get rid of that, and likewise throwing out the people that were voting, who you want to vote for you, and who your Democratic friends were using to vote for them, aka illegals. Fuck illegals. Fuck you, Flake. Fuck McCain. Fuck the Democrats. Fuck every goddamn one of them. Alright, moving on. Oh yeah, the government shutdown. I don't really see how the government shutdown is really even like anything approaching a fucking threat. Democrats basically are threatening the government with a shutdown, saying we're not going to work with you on appropriations bills if you do not give the DACA illegals a deal which will eventually grab them citizenship so they can infect every other state, and particularly Texas, and turn it blue with extra votes when they bring in family members and a whole bunch more. Leftists continue to move to Texas because it's actually business friendly. Really, the government shuts down every fucking weekend. They shut down every fucking holiday, so the government shuts down all the time. The non-essential portions, or I should say, essential services, as they call them, they're already paid for outside the appropriations route because they're funded on autopilot via non-discretionary spending, and so it doesn't have to be put into appropriations bills anyway. It's just the other crap that everybody's starting to cry and whine about, that Congress has to appropriate in a bill in order to have money go from the quote unquote treasury to those places in order to pay for the services and land and utilities and blah 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 blah. Which, you know, it's bullshit anyway. I'm not going to get into that in this video. So, so basically they're threatening with a government shutdown, and the media is trying to exaggerate it to the point where, like, you know, everyone's going to starve, everyone's going to die, no one's going to get any benefits. Food shortages will shut down, the sky will turn red, the ground will quake, the sun will turn black, blah blah blah. You know, just a bunch of nonsensical exaggerations to say that there's a problem. When again, if the government shuts down every fucking weekend and every goddamn holiday, how is it that there's really going to be a problem? In fact, I think government shutdowns are fucking great. Because, well, I'll put it this way. Government can't abuse its power or gather more power unto itself when it has the day off. I say a shutdown is good. Fuck the government, fuck the Dems, DACA illegals bluff, fuck the lying mass media and who are trying to make a big deal out of it. Fuck everybody involved with it, fuck everything that has anything to do with it. Shut down the government, fine. Keep it shut down forever for all I give a rat's ass. It's not helping us anyway. And I guess moving on. Alright, I'm going to, I don't know if people are doing this, but since I like the Federalist papers, I'm going to start reading them at the end of these things, and that's going to be a pain in the ass because they're hard to read, especially Hamilton's, who you're seeing on the screen here. He wrote the first one, but I'm going to start with the first one anyway, and I'm going to do it just to get something out. So, the first Federalist paper written by our buddy Alexander Hamilton here. And I will show you the text and read it. Okay. To the people of the state of New York, after an unequivocal experience of the efficacy of subsisting federal government, you are called upon to deliberate on a new constitution for the United States of America. The subject speaks of its own importance, comprehending in its consequences nothing less than the existence of the Union, the safety and welfare of the parts of which it is composed, the fate of an empire in many respects, the most interesting in the world. It has been frequently remarked that it seems to have been reserved for the people of this country, by their conduct and example, to decide the important questions, whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to depend on their political constitutions on accident and force. Sorry, some weird words. Hamilton was an interesting author. If there be any truth in the remark, the crisis at which we have arrived may with propriety be regarded as an era in which the decision is to be made, and a wrong election of the part we shall act may, in this view, deserve to be considered in the general misfortune of mankind. The idea will add inducements and philanthropy to those of patriotism, heighten the solicitude for which they considerate and good men must feel for the event. Happy will it be if our choice should be directed by a judicious estimate of our own true interests, unperplexed and unbiased by the considerations not connected with public good. But this is a thing more ardently to be wished for than seriously to be expected. The plan offered to our deliberations affects too many particular interests, innovates upon too many local institutions, not to involve in its discussion a variety of objects foreign to its merits, and of views, passions, and prejudices little favorably in the discovery of truth. Among the most formidable of the obstacles which the new Constitution will have to encounter may readily be distinguished for the obvious interest of a certain class of men in every state to resist all changes which may hazard a diminution of their power, emolument, and consequences of the offices they hold under state establishments, and the perverted ambition of another class of men, who will either hope to aggrandize themselves by the confusions of the country, or will flatter themselves with fairer prospects of elevation from the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies from which the Union than from its union under one government. Man, fucking really bad at reading this. Anyway, basically that means that we want to make a constitution, but there's going to be a bunch of people that don't like the constitution, particularly people that are already landed or set in their own ways, and don't want change because that would affect their power in some way, or want change to go so far that they want to break up the union. And interestingly enough, that kind of sounds similar to what we're seeing a lot of today. Fucking embedded politicians who don't have any term limits or anything of the sort, a new political class, an aristocracy, or oligarchy, if you will, who are funded by a bunch of outside shady types and a bunch of weird corporations. who don't want anything to change, who don't want to, quote-unquote, make America great again, or as I put it, make America strong again. They want to keep America stupid and weak, ship jobs over to China so they can skim off the top, yet still continue to grow government so they can keep skimming off the top of that and making more money and keeping power for themselves. Anyway, on we go. It is not, however, my design to dwell upon observations of this nature. I am well aware that it would be disingenuous to resolve indiscriminately the opposition of any set of men, merely because their situations might subject them to suspicion, into interested or ambitious views. Candor will oblige us to admit that even such men be actuated by upright intentions, and it cannot be doubted that much of the opposition which has made its appearance, may hereafter make its appearance, will spring from sources. Blameless at least, if not respectable, the honest errors of minds led astray by preconceived jealousness and fears. So numerous indeed, and so powerful of the cause which serve to give a false bias to their judgment, that we, upon many occasions, see wise and good men on the wrong as well as on the right side of the question of the first magnitude to society. This circumstance, if duly attended to, would finish a lesson of moderation to those who are ever so much persuaded by their being in the right of any controversy, and a further reason for caution, in this respect, might be drawn from the reflection that we are not always sure that those who advocate the truth are influenced by purer principles than their antagonists. How do you fucking think about that, Jeff Flake, you cocksucker? Ambition, avarice, personal animosity, party opposition, and many other motives, are not more laudable than these, are apt to operate as well upon those who support as those who oppose the right side of the question. Were there not even inducements to moderation, nothing could be more ill-judged than that of the intolerant spirit which has, at all times, characterized political parties. For in politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and sword. Heresies in either can rarely be cured by persecution. And yet, however just these sentiments will be allowed to be, we have already sufficient indications that it will happen in this, as in all former cases of great national discussion. A torrent of angry and malignant passions will be let loose. To judge from the conduct of the opposite parties, we shall be led to conclude that they will mutually hope to evince the justness of their opinions and increase the number of converts by the loudness of their declamations and the bitterness of their invectives. An enlightened zeal for the energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as an offspring of a temper fond and despotic power and hostile to the principles of liberty. An over-scrupulous jealousy of danger to the rights of the people, which may more commonly fall at the head than that of the heart, will be represented as a mere pretense and artifice. The stale bait for popularity at the expense of public good. It would be forgotten, on one hand, that jealousy is the usual concomitant of love, and the noble enthusiasm for liberty, that, in contemplation of a sound of well-informed judgment, their interests can never be separated, and that a dangerous ambition more often lurks behind the specious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidden appearance of zeal and the firmness of efficiency of government. History will teach us that the former has been found a much more certain road to the introduction of despotism than the latter, and that of those men who have overturned the liberties of republics. The greatest number have begun their career by paying an obsequious court to the people, commencing demagogues and ending tyrants. In the course of the preceding observations, I have had my eye, my fellow citizens, to putting you upon the guard against all attempts, from whatever quarter, to influence your decision in the matter of utmost moment of your welfare, by any impressions other than those which may result from the evidence of truth. You will, no doubt, at the same time, have collected from the general scope of them, that they proceed from a source not unfriendly to the new Constitution. Yes, my countrymen, I owe to you that, after having given it an attentive consideration, I am clearly of opinion it is your interest to adopt it. I am convinced that this is the safest course of your liberty, your dignity, and your happiness. I will affect not reserves which I do not feel. I will not amuse you with an appearance of deliberation when I have decided. I frankly acknowledge to you my convictions, and I will lay freely before you the reasons for which they are founded. The consciousness of good intentions disdains ambiguity. I shall not, however, multiply professions on their head. My motives must remain in the depository of my own breast. My arguments will be open to you all, and may be judged by all. They shall at least be offered in a spirit which will not disgrace the cause will not. Sorry. They shall at least be offered in a spirit which will not